Hey everyone, today I am doing a twin stick shifter conversion on my Jeep. What's a twin stick? Well, the stock shifter in a Jeep is like this. It's for the transfer case, not the manual transmission. It's like this. You know, it's okay. It's ugly, but it's okay for a shifter. But as I'll show you in a few minutes, the linkage is just awful. I've fixed this one before by adding these heme joints to it, but it's a mess because the heme joints fix this piece, but this bushing here is worn out. It comes with this sleeve inside that also gets worn out, and the rest of it is just, it's horrible. I've had people tell me, well, it's installed on millions of Jeeps, it can't be so bad. That's just fine. You're not going to convince me of that. I think it's a horrible piece of engineering that needs to go. Mine was so loose before I put the heme joints in that at times it would pop out just from the shaking of the shifter. Pop out of gear. So what we have here is a JB custom fabrication twin stick unit. I'm not getting paid by them. I don't even know who they are, but it's their kit, so I figured I'll show you how to install it while also doing a review. And it's essentially made up of 4 parts, essentially. And it's 2 sticks, very similar in design, but a little bit different, as you can see with the curves and such. And then you've got these things, which I'll show you what those are for. These, again, are also a little bit different. One's got the hole in the bottom, one's got the hole in the top. And that's what I'm going to install. And what that will allow me to do is have a very clear indication of if I'm in 4 low, neutral, 2 high, or 4 high. With that old shifter, it's just impossible to really figure it out. I realized a few months back that I was driving around in 4 high for about 3 weeks before I knew it. I had the hubs unlocked and before I actually knew it, because you know these CJs are loud, they're rattly, so you might not even know. I mean, you may think it's crazy that I didn't know. Well, own a CJ and you'll know what I'm talking about. So the first step is to take the boot off, which is here. In this case, it's a 1-piece boot. It's a bunch of screws around the edge, sheet metal type screws. No issues there. Just pull it off. You don't have to take the outer edge off. You don't have to do that. It would make life easier if you did, but this one, somebody's siliconed on, and it's so difficult to get off without ruining it. I'm not bothering. Once you get this off, the shifter handle will still be in place, so you have to take all that off. And I'm going to show you how to do that from underneath. Okay, so I've already got it off so you can see. The handle mounts here. Let's see if I can get you a good view of it. Right there where I'm pointing. It sits right between here. It's just 1 bolt to get it out, and there's a couple of ways to get it out. You can take this whole thing off. This is the mounting bracket for the stock shifter that can come out. There are 2 bolts on top of it that I'll show you in a sec that you have to take out, and then this whole thing comes out. But what I found is with the Jeep with the transfer case in the vehicle, this thing's pretty hard to get out. So I've elected to leave it in. But this bolt that goes through here is too long to come out unless you lower the transfer case by a lot, and then you can get the bolt out. It's just too long. So I didn't want to do that either. So what I did is just drill the hole. You know, the Jeep floor has a bunch of holes from the factory in it. So I figured if I plug it correctly, one more hole is not that big of a deal. drilled a hole right there, which is pretty much in line with where the bolt is. You loosen the bolt and you slide it through the hole. That made it so I didn't have to lower the transfer case at all, which I really didn't feel like doing. Once you get the handle out, essentially it's this one bolt right here that I just from underneath loosened up and just slid right out like that. That's all it is. Then you have to get all the linkage off the transfer case, and this is where you really get to see what I call poor engineering. So the linkage is made up of a whole bunch of different pivot points and cotter pins and you name it. So here we go. So this is one of the pivot points. This goes to the heam joint I was talking about earlier. You move the shifter back and forth. This moves. It's on the mount. Sorry about that. You move the shifter back and forth. This moves. It's on a mount here. There's a bushing here. There's an opportunity for wear up here. There's opportunity for wear here. But here's where the fun starts. This actually connects here, which then connects to this. So what happens when you're moving this thing actually pivots and pulls two pins in the transfer case at the same time, but not in the exact same position. So you've got this situation where you're kind of trying to get one lever to do the job of two. And probably when it was brand new, it worked well. But you've got so many wear points here, so many pivot points here, that I'm sure pretty soon these things just get so sloppy that you can't tell where you are in the shifter, and that's what happened to me. So I looked around trying to find these. I can't find them. If they're an aftermarket supplier for these, I don't know where they are. I just have not been able to find them. This was not the easiest thing to get out. It looks so simple. There's cotter pins here. Just take the cotter pins out, drive the pins out, and it's out. But it's not that simple. First of all, if you're in a rusty area, which luckily I'm not, the cotter pins are all going to be broken off, and you're going to have to struggle with those. But also the clearance is a little bit tight. In those pins, they go through the ends. That's the transfer case shift forks right there. The pins go through the ends of those, straight up and down. And those pins aren't that easy to get out. I did have to use a small hammer to tap them out. You can do it. There is enough clearance in here to do it, obviously, because I've done it. And you can see there's one of the forks, there's the other fork. This is the position for too high right now. So you have to take all this out. This is a Dana 20 transfer case, by the way. The Dana 300, which is in the more modern CJs, is a little bit different, a little bit easier, honestly. This pin I'm looking at right now, or bolt, or whatever you want to call it, this has to come out on this particular kit with the Dana 20 and the stick shift. You can't you can't install these without taking this out, because the arms will hit this bolt. There's a couple of ways to get this out. This bolt is swedged and welded to the hanger. So if you take this whole hanger out, like I was talking about, you just grind the end of this bolt off, the other side that I'm opposite from what I'm showing you, and then just pop it out with a punch. That way you get to save the bolt. I don't know why you'd need it later, but you might. I can't do that because I can't get this bracket off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind it off, grind it flush with the mount. Grind it right to here, right to the edge. That's going to be fun. That's probably going to be the hardest part of this whole install, honestly. So that's the steps for removal. I'll show you how this is going to work when it's installed. Now that you've seen the pins on the Dana 20 transfer case, you can see that these fit over those pins. And the other end fits in here. Now I haven't quite figured this whole thing out yet. This seems like a questionable setup, but I guess if it's greased right, it'll work. But once I figure that out, I'll have that on the video too. Right now, my next step is to get that mounting bolt out of the mounting bracket on the Dana 20. All right, I'm back at it and run into a bit of a problem here. This is the arm that comes down from one of the twin sticks, and it's supposed to connect to this, which then fits over this, which is the shift rod coming out of the transfer case. The problem is the fit is too tight. I mean, it's got to be, looking at it, it's got to be moved this way to the right, because it will never fit with this, right? This fits like this, and then this comes down. This has got to move way over. I mean, like half an inch over. It's way off. And the other one is not as much off. Yeah, let's try and see. This is not the best test because it's actually a different piece that fits over this one. But yeah, this one's too tight too because it rubs up against this collar. So both of these have to move inward. So what that would tell me is that I might be able to move the entire bracket. See that long pipe that's sticking out, the entire bracket. But if I do that, the bolt shift is going to be cocked to the right. So that's not right. And one of them is rubbing the end of the floor as it is. You can see that right up there. So what I'm going to have to do is take these off and bend them, probably heat them a bit with the MAP gas and bend them. But this is going to be a tricky procedure because there isn't a lot of room to play with, number one. And number two, you know, you bend them, you change the angle. So I'm going to have to be careful so that it doesn't make it hard shifting when I do that. This is kind of a bummer. I was not expecting this. It's not like the bracket that connects to the transfer case is wrong. It's not. It's in the right place. I can tell looking at it, it's in the right place, but these just aren't bent exactly correct. So on to the bending. Having quite a few troubles with this kit. First and foremost, these rods here, they're not long enough. I don't know if it's something with my Jeep, but I doubt it. Everything seems stock under there. But these rods just aren't long enough. They're about a ½ inch too short. So either they were welded at the wrong angle or something, but they're too short. So what I've had to do is I heated this end up here, and I hit it with a flat hammer and pushed it downward to get the length I needed here. But I'm going to have to bend this out because, of course, that changes the angle this way. But that's okay. I can bend it out. But basically what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to do it with both of them, is manipulate them quite a lot to get them to fit. And even then, I'm not 100% sure. I'm worried about heating this thing too much. It's got a brass bushing in it. This is kind of a pain. But we'll try it one at a time. We'll see how it goes. I'm finishing up for the night. This thing's way too hot to touch, and I'm getting tired of messing with this thing. But this is the second bend on this one. The first one got it closer, but it's still not there. So more later. So I'm back at it, still trying to get these shifter rods to fit. The problem is that they're just not long enough at the bottom. So you get this slot that fits over like a pin that then fits over the Dana 20 shift rod, but it's not long enough, so you get binding. So what I'm attempting to do is flatten out this bend a bit and then make it up by bending the bottom, in this case, to the left a little bit. It looks like I have one of them working. Now I have to get this one working. This is the inner one, closest to the driver. So I'm going to put it in the vise. 1 second while I do that. I know it seems like a Mickey Mouse way to do things, but I haven't found a better way to do it. And just kind of flatten that bend, which will lengthen the rod, you know, lengthen the whole thing, which is what I need. They're just way too short. But of course that screws up the geometry big time. So then what I have to do is bend this bottom piece where the slot is back to originally where it was before I started messing with it. So essentially I'm making it longer, but I'm trying to preserve where it ends up. Okay, so I'll give this a little try. Pretty hard to do while you hold the phone, I can tell you that. Okay, now I'm going to try to just push in and bend it a bit. Okay, we got a little bend there. I don't know if you can see it as much on camera, but it's there. So we'll see if that works. Hard to believe, but I'm still at it. I did get one shift working by making it longer, but this one still is not long enough. It's bottoming out. What happens is you've got a pin, goes through here, and it's bottoming out because this is not long enough. So you can't do anything. The shift won't move because it needs to move up and down. It can't move down anymore. So I've heated this up once again. You can see the grease smoking a bit. Really worried about these brass bushings. I don't want to overheat them. And as you can see, I've really put a bend in this thing. Shouldn't have to do this. Don't like doing it, but I don't have a better solution. This bend is going to force this down, make it longer, and then I'm going to pull this in to kind of straighten it out, give me even a little bit more length. And you know, we're talking about, you know, maybe a centimeter or two that I need, not even a 2 centimeters, a centimeter, centimeter and a half. This should give it to me. This is a pretty radical bend. I mean, really can't bend it too much more than that. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but I'm a little encouraged because I've got the other one working now. So I'm going to let this cool, probably come back to it in the morning. This has taken me a whole lot longer than I ever dreamed it would. All right, I got them working. I really had to bend them, particularly the one on the right, but I did get them to be just long enough. And when you're doing this, when you're testing them, you got to have the engine running and the clutch in. And sometimes you got to move the clutch out a little bit to get the transfer case aligned. But they're working now. The problem I have now is that this one, the right side, is not lined up with the left shifter. This has to come back just a little bit. And I want them aligned because I want the new user of this Jeep to know when it's in neutral. And that'll be easy to do. Just make sure they're aligned. This is a little bit tricky to learn. It's not like a typical shift as you might think. So due to the angle here, I've only got to move it a little bit. You know, 1/8 of an inch is probably it. So I've got this nut here. I'm just going to move this until the nut. Now you can heat these. It's stainless steel, and the directions even state you can heat them, but don't heat them too hot, and it will discolor it. So I'm going to do it below the boot, and because of that, a little bit here is going to make a lot of difference up here. So I'm going to try with 1/8 of an inch and see how that looks first. I'm going to use just a regular propane torch to do it, and again, I'm not going to get it super hot. This is going to be too hot to touch, I'm sure. So I've got this doubled up rag that I'm going to use as a handle, essentially, to pull this back. See, it's dull red. Boy, it doesn't want to come back. Okay, I'm gonna have to heat it up some more. Yeah, this is gonna have to get heated up a little bit more because it's not. It wouldn't move. Try that. This thing does not want to move. I'm gonna have to get it much hotter. There we go. Okay, I think I moved it enough. Yeah, I think that was enough. Now we gotta let that cool. Making good progress. Stick is perfect now. Lined up neutral, side by side, with that little bend. Tops look good. Now I'm just getting ready to put the boot on. Had to do slight trimming around the right side stick, but no big deal. The boot is really nice quality, very flexible. Has a steel mounting plate underneath. Should be easy to install. 4 screws, may add more, we'll see. And the existing boot, I think I can cut the old piece, which is this, and just make it fit. So the sticks are in. Had to modify the original boot, obviously. I'll get into that a bit later. But I'm going to put the heads on, the knobs on them, with a little bit of Loctite, and then put the lock nuts on. Put the shift knob back on with some Loctite, and I have to finish up the boot. Do a little painting around the boot that is exposed now where it wasn't before, and got a little bit more of wrap up to do as well. There's the finished product. It was a lot of work, but it's in. Very simple to use. Each shifter has neutral position. To use them, usually it's best to have the end and in neutral. Right now this is too low. You get this one in neutral, this one pulled back. That's completely neutral from everything. And then so that wasn't too high. If I want to go to, let's see, 4 high, then I want to have both shifters back. So this one's in neutral, this one's in neutral. You have to do them in a certain order, and sometimes they stick, so you let the clutch out. There you go. See how they're both back now? That's 4 high. Now, neutral again. Notice I had to move the right stick first, and I want to go into 4 low. What I have to do is move these forward, and there's an order. I don't recall which goes first. Let the clutch out again and make it a little easier. Yeah, it's that one. That one. So now we're in 4 low. That's all there is to it. You get the hang of it, which one has to go first. I did not modify the transfer case so that I can do things I shouldn't do. So, you know, this is factory Dana 20 how it's supposed to work. All right, enjoy. Hope you liked it. Important question: would I do it again? Well, I'm not sure if I'd do it again. It was a lot of work. Because the shifter bars needed to be bent. That made this job a lot longer than it had to be. But other than that, the kit's good quality. I mean, the boot is an excellent condition. A really nice boot, very flexible. The shift handles are nice. But they gave me the wrong sticker for the dash, you know, that tells you which lever goes where. They gave me the one for the Dana 300, not the Dana 20. So I'm gonna have to find my own sticker, just stuff like that. I mean, quality control, I guess, is the deal. But it was still very cool, and I'm so glad it's in. Now I know what gear I'm in. I know if I'm in 4-wheel drive, high, low, neutral, whatever. So I'm glad it's there, and you know, it really looks cool. I have to say that, and that's half the reason I did it, was for the looks. But so glad to have that old, worn-out Jeep linkage out of there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. It was a long video because it was a long process, but I don't know of any other Dana 20 twin stick conversions on YouTube. So hopefully if you're deciding to do this, you can follow this video and learn something. Thanks again. If you like these type of videos, subscribe because I've got more coming.